Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Live, a weekly live stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's WandaVision series, which is available to stream on Disney+. In today's episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around episode 6, which is titled All New Halloween Spooktacular. So there will be spoilers for that, as well as other elements of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm Keith Isles. I'm a filmmaker, actor, and YouTuber. And as always on this, I am joined by a panel of superheroes from both sides of the Atlantic. So first and foremost, we bring to the stream our artist and film enthusiast, Ryan Holloway. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Keith. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Not too bad. Good to be here again. Another quite a lot to talk about once more. As
always. Yes, There's always loads to talk about. And, these weeks come round quite fast. It's quite frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
It's always frightening. But it's really important while we're talking about this show that we have somebody that knows their Marvel comics and knows the comics and source material well. So I am really pleased to introduce our Marvel comics specialist from across the pond, Barbara Mealy. Hey, Barbara.
Hey, Keith. Hi, Ryan. How are you guys?
Hey, good.
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, doing great.
Good. Really pleased to hear it. And I don't know why I always leave this last guy to last. I don't know why I keep doing this. I said I would do it in random order, and I keep doing it in the same order. I've almost got myself in my own repeating reality every week with this. But this would not be complete without the partner that started all of this. So producer and podcaster, Pete Mealy. Hey, Pete.
Why did Vision cross the road? To get to the other side.
There you go.
Age-old question.
And it only gets better from there.
You can bring the punchline.
Yeah, let's work on this for next week.
I definitely need to work on my opening a bit. As I said, I planned to introduce you in a completely different order this week, and I went straight back into autopilot mode. So that's never good, is it? So anyway, if you're joining us for the first time, please get involved in the chat. I know there's a few people watching already, and already I want to say hello to Derek McManus and Daniel Leach out there that have also put comments in the chat. Really appreciate you guys joining us and watching this. If you're new to this, please do like this video if you are indeed liking this live stream, and consider subscribing to the channel. There is a lot more content on here, and if you want to go back and listen to some of our previous episodes, they are available on this stream, but they are also available as podcasts on all good podcasts apps. Just look up at LSWOT cast and you will find us. We've got some Star Trek and some Star Wars episodes on there as well as previous WandaVision episodes. So before we get into this, a few announcements, a few bits and pieces. First of all, it's really a question that you can either put in the live stream, or if you're watching this later, just add to the comments. At the moment, we're using our superhero identities, secret identities, because we're using avatars for this. But one of the questions moving forward, of course, this goes out as a podcast, so we have to make sure it's very good for the audio. But it is an audio-visual experience. So the question we want to ask is, do you want to see us? Do you want us to have cameras on when we do this? Or are you happy seeing our avatars? Do you want to see our secret identities?
What have you asked? Do you want to see us?
Well, you know what I mean.
I do.
Our
Yes.
faces to get our expressions when we're talking as well. But obviously, this is aimed to be a podcast as well. So, you know, it's about the audio. But I thought I'd put that question out there. Another thing that we're going to be doing, if you're joining us weekly, we're going to be doing towards the end of the run of the series, is we are going to be giving away some copies, or a couple of copies, of Blade, which of course was an early Marvel film. I believe it was 1998 that Blade was made, and it was one of the things where people were starting to take superhero movies seriously again. I know that Kevin Feige worked on that as an associate producer back in the day. I recently did a unboxing of the Blade 4K and Blu-ray release. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go and check that unboxing out. I actually unboxed the steelbook version, which came with a poster and some art cards. I have a copy of that steelbook that we're going to give away to a winner at the end of this show. And when I say this show, I mean the series, not today, but by the time we get to episode 9. And I've also got a regular edition of the 4K as well. Both of these come with a Blu-ray as well, including special features and whatever. So check that out, and you know, spread the word and stay tuned for that on future episodes. Also, we've got an announcement to make at the end of the show as well about something exciting happening next week. So so please stay tuned for that.
Tease.
But in the meantime, indeed, I'm such a tease. I'm trying to keep these people hooked. You know, poor G Lake, by the way, is already saying faces, please. He's obviously never seen my face. I was going to say, he's in my case, he's obviously. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but in my case, he's obviously got very, very good eyesight or something. I don't know. Anyway, I've got
something like that.
Live broadcasts. I don't want to say the wrong thing here.
No,
so,
exactly. Who does?
We're gonna start off with a brief synopsis of episode 6 in There Was an Idea. Over to you, Ryan.
So episode 6. So now we're set in the 90s. It's a 90s sitcom, and it's Tommy and Billy's first Halloween, and Wanda wants them to celebrate as a family, but Vision tells her that he's going to patrol the streets with the neighborhood watch. Pietro does offer to step up as a father figure and takes the boys trick-or-treating, causing mischief with his super speed, which Tommy seems to have inherited. Meanwhile, Vision explores the edges of Westview and finds residents standing frozen in their positions, including Agnes. Vision connects with Agnes's mind, and she reveals that Vision is an Avenger and that he died, something he has no memory of. Outside of Westview, Hayward orders Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy to leave the base, but they sneak back inside to hack into his computer, where they discover that he has been tracking Vision's vibranium signature. Vision later tries to push through the static wall, but he begins to disintegrate. Billy senses this and tells Wanda, who expands the hex, enveloping Vision, Darcy, and several SWORD agents in the process. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah,
I didn't know whether to put that at the end. It's live.
No, that's
Probably
good. That's very good. Excellent. So we're just going to have a really quick look at Who Did This to You, Wanda, which is our production credits for this week. So this episode was written by Chuck Hayward and Peter Cameron, who are writer-producers on this. Chuck's previous work includes Mixed-ish, Dear White People, and Stepsisters, and Peter Cameron's is Carnival Row, the TV show. I also want to mention cinematographer for this series, for the entire series, beautifully lit and photographed by Jess Hall, who is the director of photography. Jess's previous work include the likes of Hot Fuzz, working with Edgar Wright, Grindhouse, working with Quentin Tarantino, Transcendence, and Ghost in the Shell. So, you know, he's doing a great job, I think, on this show so far to give it its own look and personality. So, so there you go. couple more comments have come in. Daniel has said, up to you. I personally show face on my channel. I'm surprised it doesn't break the camera. Bless you, Daniel. So
does it have to be our faces? We can just show any face, or is that...
any face, you know?
Yeah.
We can, or we can be wearing
filters.
Maybe we can be wearing superhero. Like maybe I'll wear a Spider-Man mask.
Please do.
When I'm on camera. Thanks.
As long as we only see, if you're dressing as Spider-Man, as long as we only see your face. I know he wears a lot of spandex.
Yes,
quite right.
But I know you're a runner, Keith. So I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. Trust me. Spandex is not flattering. There you go. So anyway, time to look at our comics and MCU and film connections. So you need to keep both eyes open on your left. Over to you, Barbara and Pete.
All right. So in episode 6, the most obvious comic book connection is everybody's costumes for the Halloween spooktacular. So Wanda's in her original Scarlet Witch costume. Vision as well is in his costume from the comics. And even right down to Billy and Tommy, who are super powered in the comics, they are both wearing their comic book superhero costumes as well. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. And then from there, the connections are sort of smaller. Eventually, when Vision and Scarlet Witch did have their own run of issues in the Marvel Universe, the very first issue, they're settling into their home as a newlywed couple. And happens to be they move in on Halloween night. And of course, mischief ensues and they can't, just be a regular married couple. They have to sort of find a balance between their powers and not scaring the normal humans in the neighborhood. I have been going back and rereading the comics as we go through the TV show episodes. So funny little detail, they had a butler who sort of came with the house and his name was Jarvis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Which was right is what Iron Man, Tony Stark originally named his AI. I don't remember the full acronym in Iron Man, but as we know, Jarvis was part of the symbiosis with the vibranium and that created Vision in the Marvel movies. And then one other I feel like a little bit of a reach, there was a Marvel comic book writer named Warren Ellis. So in this episode, Wanda tells the kids not to go past Ellis Avenue. And I think that the cross street when they show Vision there is Rolling Hills, but that isn't really significant as far as I could remember. Ellis he had 2 series and they were both sort of the upside down in Marvel happening. So one was called Marvel Ruins and everything goes wrong. The superheroes are not able to actually save anybody. And then another one is called Next Wave, and it involves sort of like a secondary or even a tertiary line of new Avengers, including Monica Rambeau. And they this smaller or this new group of heroes fights reality altering threats. So maybe Ellis Avenue is just a little Easter egg for the audience about what direction the show is going to go in.
Yeah, I did also wonder about that simply because in Iron Man 2, which, I know isn't necessarily the best installment of the MCU, but William Sadler, who's a great actor, by the way, actually plays the president in that, and the president's name is President Ellis. So I just wondered whether it would be a connection to that also, but it might be one of those clever sort of connections that mean many things,
right?
Perhaps. Yeah.
Why be just one thing?
Exactly. Why be one thing when you can be a multi-tool?
There you go.
I don't
one's
know.
ever called me that.
That was
I'd love to
probably.
be called
I was
that.
going to say that was probably a bad. That was probably a bad analogy. Pete, help me.
You multi-tool.
Anything?
No, sorry. I'll call Ryan a multi-tool anytime. I'll call anyone a multi-tool.
What?
What you said? You wanted somebody to call you a multi-tool?
Wow.
Okay. I will to get back on track. I will say that.
Please do, Pete. Please do.
Sorry, I was trying to be mean. Not knowing the comics, I thought that which one was it, Tommy or Billy? He looked like Doctor Strange. It looked like sort of a cheap Doctor Strange costume, but Barbara's the real intelligent one there. And then looking at other references, I did think that when they were talking to the camera, it was very Malcolm in the Middle, which I thought was, a real perfect 90s hit. Yeah?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of this episode's kind of it almost feels more sort of late 90s. Last week we said it was sort of 80s meets 90s. Well, this week feels kind of 90s meets 2000s, because I'm not sure when Malcolm in the Middle was, but wasn't that early 2000s, or did I get that wrong?
I thought it was like 97.
Oh, right.
Oh, no.
Well, that would.
Oh my gosh, you're right. It premiered in 2000. Oh, look at you!
Oh, wow.
Hit it right on the nose.
No. I mean, I'm not that familiar with Malcolm in the Middle, but I realised, that they were. The sad thing is they were doing the talking to camera stuff, breaking the fourth wall stuff, which I know was very much a trope of that show. But I noticed it more that the camcorder had gone over to digital, because it had like a really, that sort of early 2000s digital camcorder look. To the footage, but
it was so well observed though, wasn't it? And it sort of weirded me out that there was no laughter, but we'll come on to that.
Oh yes, that's true. There was no laughter track, right?
Yeah, I was kind of expecting it. It was at one point. It was strange.
Was there a laughter track in Malcolm in the Middle?
No, because that was very much a thing of 90s comedy, wasn't it? They sort of got rid of that.
What, the humor? Sorry.
although Friends had a studio audience, didn't it? So yeah, I don't know.
It did. Yeah, well, I wonder whether we'll get a Frenzy episode, but who knows? But there were a couple of other movie-ish things I noticed in there that aren't necessarily MCU, but just sort of other movie things. There was one kid that was wearing, I don't know whether you noticed this in the sort of Halloween in the square thing. There was one kid that was sort of wearing a Freddy Krueger jumper, but a Jason Voorhees mask. So I was thinking, is that supposed to be like Freddy versus Jason? I have no idea. Yeah. And then the other thing was, she made a point of saying Kick-Ass. Right now, obviously, Kick-Ass starred both of the Pietros, or both of the Quicksilvers, should I say. It had both Aaron Taylor Johnson and Evan Peters in that film. So again, it likes to get quite meta, doesn't it? So I don't know whether that was some sort of wink to the audience as well about that. But that was the only other sort of little thing that I picked up, that she made a real point of saying Kick-Ass. Anybody notice anything else?
Yeah, I've been trying really hard to read, to look in the background for subcontext and other little clues and stuff. So again, when they're in the square for the Halloween festival, on the movie marquee, they had listed The Incredibles, which is a Disney Pixar
that's right.
film, and it's also a family of 4. There's Mrs. Incredible Stretchy, Reed Richards. I'm trying to remember what the other movie was. It was another Disney movie that was also listed on the marquee. So
Yeah, using Disney properties. They also, of course, had, and it's public domain, so it's no problem. But they had the obligatory Night of the Living Dead playing in the town square on the
For Halloween.
on the thing. But then who doesn't, right? That's become a trope in itself now, hasn't it? So yeah. Anybody? Daniel's pointed out here that Malcolm in the Middle was on Sky One in the UK in the early 2000s. If that helps, yeah, sure.
It does help.
Thank you. Yes, it does. We need all the help we can get.
It helps us get our facts straight, and I like that.
Yes. So, any other notable references to, movies, the rest of the MCU, the comics, and any other stuff that stood out to anyone?
Well,
No?
I think that this is another stretch, but and I'm going to tie it back to our Star Trek podcast. But I think what we see with the director here is blip trauma, which did make me think about the most recent season of Star Trek Discovery, which was a lot about how people deal with trauma. And so again, I thought it was an interesting take on sort of the lasting effects of the blip on people here, and the divide between people who did blip and people who didn't blip.
Yeah, very good
really
observation.
Yeah.
No, of course, absolutely. Well, shall we move on to the next bit then, which is I could do this all day, which is where we talk about our theories, speculations, etc., about where we think this might go or what might be going on. And anybody want to kick that off?
I'm happy to. I'm like bursting with ideas.
Yes, go, Barbara, go.
So I definitely think they're working on the new Avengers with with Wanda expanding the hex. I was not expecting Darcy to get swallowed up because, as far as I'm aware, she never like evolves as a character in the comics. But
I think that's what Pete said a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
right.
So I think this is going to be a whole bunch of new people, right? Who now like they revealed this cellular thing about Monica's, right? So now there's a whole bunch of more people who like pass through the force field.
Well, that's interesting, actually, Barbara, on that point, because I don't know this because I'm not so familiar with the comics, but is Darcy from the comics, or was she a creation for the MCU?
There's there's similar characters, but I think Darcy Lewis is like an MCU person.
Cool.
So she could become something that we don't know about yet. That's interesting.
Right.
Or a version of somebody that does exist in the comics, yeah?
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Because in the comics, there's always like so much drama, and there's like descriptive text for the introducing the scenes, but then also the dialogue and little asterisks when they mention something that happened in a previous issue or like another series when there's a crossover. So there's like a lot of stuff to absorb, and sometimes it can be challenging to remember, like, oh yeah, Dr. So-and-so helped this Avenger with that thing, but then they never get brought up again because it was just like a mechanic to move the story forward, and they're a human, so they don't like come back again. But there's a potential there for more new Avengers to come in now that the town's been expanded. It's also kind of fun that they're like, I guess, hinting at that idea, because in the House of M series, which like I've mentioned a few times is probably a large part of the source material for this show, Wanda, she goes insane because of all the trauma she's been through, and sort of towards the end of it, she says no more mutants, and so everybody loses their mutant abilities and just lives as like regular humans. But there's she ends up having to reverse it because like it doesn't work out. And when she reverses it, she sort of overloads her power. And so more mutants actually come into existence. I think that's when they call them the Inhumans in the comics, is like this new race it's not their inherent genetics. It's like because they've received this surge of power from Wanda. So in the comic world, it's kind of this fun debate. It's, did she mean no more mutants as in like mutants shouldn't exist, or did she mean no, comma, more mutants as in there should be more mutants because like obviously they're the more worthwhile, more powered, like more important people.
Fair enough.
Does
That
that make
sounds
sense?
good. No, it
Yeah.
makes total sense. Love this. Just a couple of quick hellos. Garbage has joined the chat and said, hello, chat. This is my first time here. Well, you're very welcome, Garbage. We really appreciate you coming on. Also, there's a question here from does Dr. Victor Doom was also an aerospace engineer? Yes, that's probably in reference to she says about she knows an aerospace engineer, right? So that could be you never know, could be Victor Doom, could it? Guys, what do you think?
I thought Doom was always like bad, like always evil, always had that agenda. So I'd be kind of surprised if the MCU brings him in and then he turns bad. Like again, I don't think that's really one of the things that happens in the MCU, is that people go back and forth, like change sides.
No, fair enough. Hello, Jason Finn. He's also joined the chat here. Garbage is asking, so what's the lowdown here? Everyone a fan of WandaVision, or are there different views? Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's open, really. We're all fans of WandaVision, but and fans of the MCU, but you know, the chat is there for debate. So we've got our sort of format of the show, but you know, we can easily go off on tangents like I often do. So,
I mean, I guess all four of us like it, don't we? We're all fans of the show, but I guess we sometimes have differing opinions on certain characters and so forth.
Exactly. So Barbara,
we're waiting to see.
Yeah, fair enough. No, absolutely.
Sorry, a little bit of a delay here with the
no, that's okay. Barbara, I felt like I didn't want to sort of derail you while you're in sort of go mode, so apologies. back over to you. I just wanted to say hello to a few people who had joined the stream, but back over to you with your theorizing and hypothesizing and all of those izing type words. Go for it.
No, yeah, I'm glad you're saying hi to people as they come in, and I think to Garbage's question, like it's always kind of fun to have differing viewpoints, and if you're not a fan, like tell us why, and then we, you know, maybe we can convert you. It'll, like, I think, make our enjoyment of the show stronger to see conflicting viewpoints. But yeah, right, Ryan, instead of us all just gushing all the time.
Yeah, no, that is one of the things when you do a podcast like this, you kind of hope that one of you is going to be a bit like, no, I hate it with a passion. But no, not yet. But as Pete says, though, we are kind of waiting, because it might kind of go in a direction that one of us suddenly gets upset about, or, you know, I mean, upset in the context of TV and film. You know, I'm not gonna sit in a dark room and listen to Morrissey. But I think that. But you know, I think that, you know, I mean, for example, when we started thinking about multiverses. I mean, I was a little bit less enthused by that, but yeah, so we're kind of still waiting, but I think at the moment we're all fans, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. By the way, the reason I'm reading all of these out is because this does go out as a podcast as well, folks. So Garbage has put, for me, I am still watching. I really didn't enjoy the first 3 episodes. Very slow. 4 and 5 were okay. Episode 6, for me, bad for the first 20 minutes or so. You know, fair enough. But what was I going to say? Yes, on that note, actually, about what you've just mentioned, Ryan, about the multiverse and all of this sort of thing. I did have some more thoughts on this week, because I do think that's where the MCU is going. I mean, it even says so in the Doctor Strange, movie title, and we know Spider-Man 3 is going to be doing stuff like that as well. But
and it's also just about across comic books, though, isn't it? Like DC are doing it with the Flash.
They are, absolutely. But one of the things I was having more thoughts about the older Pietro or Pete, as this guy is really, Peter Maximoff. In fact, I noticed the kids referred to him as Uncle Pete in a couple of places. I don't know whether that was intentional, but there was all these theories about, had he crossed over from the X-Men universe and all this sort of thing. I'm wondering really whether it's just a wink to the audience now. I'm wondering whether it's just a bit of stunt casting, and whether it doesn't necessarily mean that he is the Peter Maximoff Quicksilver from the X-Men movies. Not literally. I know it's the same actor, of course, but I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on this, guys?
Honestly, I think you could be right about that, because obviously that we got a lot more this week about, I think she says to him at one point, why is your accent different? And he's like, why is yours? And he's just as confused about looking different and sounding different as everyone else is. So I have to admit, Keith, I kind of agree with you on that. I think it could just be a nod. But again, who knows with this stuff. But yeah, I have to admit, I was kind of like multiverse, then a little bit more towards what you're saying, just from bits and pieces that they were talking about.
Pete, Barbara?
I was kind of confused with what they were doing with Quicksilver in this episode, because why that sort of jump shot when Wanda looks at him and he's dead and he's got bullet wounds, like that happened to Pietro.
Yeah, that confused me.
Right.
Yeah.
And there were other little things that so they're sort of like mushing the two characters together, and I don't really know what they're doing yet, or I can't tell.
Yeah.
And on the recap, they even showed the, Aaron Taylor Johnson getting shot in Age of Ultron in the recap, which was interesting.
Nice bit of exposition there.
Pete, have you got any thoughts on this?
I had really hoped that when they showed the dead Pietro, it was going to be Aaron Taylor Johnson. Because when they showed Vision dead, it was, how he looked like after Endgame, or no, Infinity War.
Oh, Infinity War, yeah.
And so I just thought, it would have been so perfect if just for that one moment it was Aaron Taylor Johnson. But I guess they couldn't do that.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Just to some comments real quick. So Garbage has actually put, it's obvious they're building to something which is fine and expected and keeps viewers, but it's really dragging for me. Okay. So it's not working for everyone. Fair comment.
I do also agree with that a bit, because, after episode 5, it was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Like the MCU is coming in, right? And X-Men. And then, but no, they do have to concentrate on the story that is right in front of them with WandaVision. So this episode felt like it just got not lost necessarily, but more into, it stayed in Westview and what's going on there, and we're all so excited. We're waiting for okay, what's the next connection? What's
yeah. No, absolutely. Paul G. Lake says, and I think this is actually quite interesting, he said he's enjoying WandaVision, doesn't have any background knowledge of the larger universe, so no expectations, although episodes 2 and 3 could have been merged to make the series and story move along a bit quicker, which I think is also fair comment. What I find interesting here is the fact I did wonder that if you hadn't seen all of the films in the MCU, or certainly a majority of the films in the MCU, or the X-Men films or whatever, how accessible WandaVision is as a series. So I find it interesting that Paul mentions that he doesn't have any background of that, but still is able to engage with it, which is good. That's good storytelling then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And Garbage is saying here, I feel that the two lead actors are incredible. And that scene with Wanda when she left the town, prison in inverted commas, and confronted the sword guy was amazing. It's only the actors that are keeping me watching. And Paul has agreed that, yes, excellent performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Elizabeth
I
Olsen
don't know.
is
I
fantastic.
feel like
in it.
this episode had a lot of setup. Oh, sorry.
No,
No,
go
it's
on,
all right.
Pete.
Carry on, Pete. I want to hear
Yeah,
from
carry on,
you,
Pete.
Pete.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, I feel like this episode had a lot of setup, and like this episode was like we're just uncovering dust, and right, we're knocking stuff out. We haven't figured out the full picture yet, but little bits are starting to come up, and so I was really with this episode the whole way. You know, seeing Agnes in the car sort of put this puzzle piece together, like she's not, you know, the mastermind behind it that maybe we thought she was. Barbara, you'd said that you thought that other lady with the hair
Yeah, Dottie.
might be Dottie, might
With the
be
hair.
key, and haven't seen her, so I feel like she's
Mm.
sort of dropping off the map.
Yeah, I probably have to give that one up.
I don't know. But like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, all these things are like starting to click into place, right? And I think we saw that Wanda is more in control than maybe we thought she was last week. You know, because Wanda stopped everything and then grew the town. Agnes was not anywhere near being in control. And so I just feel like, I feel like people are saying like this episode wasn't great for them, and in my feeling, this episode was great building material, and this is the type of thing that you don't get out of a movie, because this 45 minutes would have been cut out of the movie to make it 2 hours. And so because we get, 8.5 hours doing this in 10 episodes, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I have a
Makes
question.
sense.
I have a question. And it could be that I've completely got all of this wrong and I should drop off the podcast entirely. But when the FBI agent and Monica first went to the outside of what we now call the Hex, there were policemen and they didn't know the existence of the town. Is that right?
Yes.
So is she
Yes.
controlling people outside of the Hex as well?
Well, that was, because that's interesting, because they say they said they didn't know Westview. They were from Eastview. Is that right? If memory serves, we're going back a few episodes.
Yeah, it was, I think, episode 2 or 3, maybe. No, it must have been 3, mustn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on that, guys?
So Ryan, your question was if Wanda's controlling people outside of Westview.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But I did see an interesting comment online that maybe will definitely will credit who said it at the end of the show when we make our other announcement.
Yes.
But that Wanda definitely has more control than we think, because for example, the first time she leaves the Hex, she acknowledges Hayward as the director without blinking, and then she knows that Monica is part of SWORD, so she does have some funny blips of knowledge of the outside world, even though she keeps saying she doesn't know how any of this got started.
Yeah. It just made me wonder about her reach, just because obviously those two policemen whose memory had been altered were outside of the Hex. So I was just wondering about how that would work. And obviously, as we saw at the end of this one, that the Hex expanded. Does that mean that she'll have to get people to forget other towns that she probably engulf, and how far-reaching that is? I just thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah. No, there is still, even though we're on episode 6 of 9 here, there is still, a lot of stuff that we still don't know, right?
So go on.
Sorry, just a couple of comments. I want to make sure I'm reading people's comments out. So thank you, Daniel. Leach said that Actually, I had it on screen and I've lost it now, haven't I? Daniel. So I feel like I'm running a radio show or something. Daniel basically said, I really like the podcast as you offer a different angle on the movies and TV shows, which is always cool. So I really appreciate that. And Paul is saying, yes, he thinks that they've catered to people who know nothing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is great. So thank you guys for the comments. Keep them coming in. If you are indeed enjoying this as well, please do like and share this video and let people know about the stream. That would be fantastic. So sorry, Ryan, carry on. I feel like I cut you off there. I didn't mean
what
to.
was I going to say? No, not at all. I was thinking that at the end of the day, I think she just wants people to watch WandaVision, doesn't she? She just wants to be she just wants to be on her own TV show. Because let's face it, when she comes out of the hex, she could have killed everyone standing there, couldn't she? Really, without thinking about it. So she's obviously she wants an audience.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, on that, Paul G. Lakes put a comment. What I've observed about Wanda, and I really like, is that even though it looks like Wanda is creating all of this, her character almost acts like she's in the dark too about what's happening, which I think is a really good point, because what do you guys feel actually about how much of this Wanda is controlling and how much of this is out of her control? What do you think? Because we had some interesting scenes where they get towards the edge of the town, didn't we?
I mean, I love those elements because I love those elements. I think it shows that there's a conflict in her, and also I know that Barbara's spoken about the comics and about how ill Wanda does get, and I think we're seeing this kind of vulnerable character who. Obviously, there's questions that I have about the show, but there's this character who there is something going on that she doesn't understand either. And that's kind of how a lot of mental health does work, and if you've got these powers, you manifest things that you probably wouldn't even know you're doing. So I really find those aspects of her character really interesting. And I like those moments. And I almost want to see more of that and them delve into her kind of mentality in a way.
Yeah, and I think that Peter, that's like what he was really doing in this episode was, okay, with your spouse, you can kind of pretend like things from your past are not affecting you because you're creating your own reality with your spouse, right? So, but then with family being there, especially her twin, who she shared things with as a child and went through the same traumas of like losing her parents and then being experimented on by Hydra, like you can't really run away from that reflection. So I feel like that's what Peter was really doing,
especially from a speedster. But yeah,
right, just catch
but here's the question. I mean, do you think then that Peter, whatever, has been sent in to actually talk to her and get a do you think Peter is an outside force that has been sent in to sort of try and connect with her on this level? Because obviously they can't use Vision for that, because Vision is technically dead and she took him. But so do you think that Pietro has been sent in by an outside force to try and talk to Wanda?
I mean, it could be.
No, I thought that Pietro. Oh, sorry.
No, go, Pete.
I thought that Pietro was brought in just like Vision, so because both of them, we've seen them as dead bodies, which says to me that if Pietro tried to leave, he would have suffered similarly to how Vision did, and that really like Wanda's confusion there is less about is more about like how she's falling into her own mental thing, trying to forget, and how the sort of what's it called trauma of losing her brother is coming back into it.
Well, he says, right, Peter says at one point in the show like I'm here to cause trouble and like stir things up, like that's what you wanted, right? So
Mm.
if Wanda, oh, and he said he heard her calling and knew that she needed him or needed help.
Yeah, because he said his last memory was getting shot, wasn't it, in that street?
Right, which is a Pietro thing, not a
Yeah.
Peter Evans thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also he said he said something like getting shot like a chump for no reason, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
I've only watched it once, but in Age of Ultron, and I've not watched this in a while, so correct me if I'm wrong, but did he not get shot by saving Hawkeye and a Sokovian kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So-
sacrificed himself, didn't he?
That's not meaningless and for no reason, is it? So I don't know. Again, I question who this version of Pietro / Quicksilver really is.
It's fair.
Cool. Any other predictions? I've only got one more thing, but I want to hear you guys first. Any other predictions?
I still think Agnes is Agatha Harkness, even though she like isn't really manifesting powers of her own. She's just the only person in Westview who consistently is acting somewhat independently.
Mm.
When they even had her dressed
Well,
up
we
as
saw
a
the other guy
witch, which
today,
was
so
great. Sorry.
Right. Herb says to Wanda, like, is there something you wanted changed? Which is like a supporting character to the main character kind of a thing to say.
My only, and I don't know whether this is an astute prediction or not. So again, I'll happily be shot down if this is way off. But my only thing is, they've already mentioned in this episode, Darcy mentions about how Monica's cellular DNA and whatever has been altered by the way that she's gone through the hex multiple times. Yeah. My question is this: do you think that if the hex expands like it's doing at the moment and is going to continue to expand and people are going to start to get enveloped by it, is this the thing that's going to cause the mutation that's going to lead to sort of, the whole X-Men mutants thing? Is that what this is doing? Have I missed the point, or is that sort of what they're setting up here for the MCU?
I think you're dead on, Keith.
Oh wow. Okay, that's unusual.
Yeah, that's the end of the podcast, everybody.
Well, okay, we're done. Thank you.
Solved it, and
I'm going to drop the mic now and walk off. Yeah,
just walk off.
Cool. Any thoughts, Pete? I realise we got a bit of a delay reaction here.
No,
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
Like Barbara said, you got it.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure I do.
Before we move on to other parts, can we talk about this episode's commercial?
Oh, definitely. Yes, the claymation. The claymation. Yes, definitely.
Because, like, once again, super creepy. Like, what the heck was going on there?
Yeah, I was wondering the same.
It did make me laugh.
It was like celebrity death match on an island.
Yeah.
with a pot of yogurt.
Like, so the commercials, right, have all expressed a little bit of something of one of Wanda's traumas from the past. So, like, what, I don't, if that's like what's going on in the part of her that's like her damaged psyche, like, freaking scary.
Yes, it was super dark.
Yeah,
well, I thought it was.
It's about her
So
brother.
I thought it had to do with like what Vision is seeing, because it's these people who are stuck because Wanda doesn't have time to pay attention to them, and so like the kid in the commercial, he can't open the yogurt. Like that lady is just stuck there trying to hang the ghost but can't move. That's how I took it, is that it's just it was a really darker take on all these people, because Wanda, apparently can't control everyone all the time.
That makes sense.
And
Well,
Peter does say something like similar, right? He says like, "Oh, where have you been hiding all these kids?" That's right. Like, just keep them in sleeping so there's less trauma, right?
Yeah.
Spread around.
But by the way, I am putting all comments up just to show that we're
I
being
noticed.
fair here. So Alexander Babbitt has put the MCU sucks. Well, which is, everybody's absolutely entitled to their opinion, so I'm going to share it.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely.
So I just wonder, Alexander, what are you in it for?
Oh, here we go. I think there's a bit more information here. Oh, okay, kids show. I don't give a something about the haters.
Fudge.
I love Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is great. We talked about DC last time, and this is
cool.
this is all good. Will that get me? Will that get me censored? I don't know.
No. Can I just say, I kind of like Batman v Superman. Definitely the ultimate version. I will say the ultimate version. It has to be that version. But I kind of liked it. Shall I go now? Shall I? I'm going to mute myself.
No. I like the extended version. I mean, this is a whole nother podcast, isn't it? If we're going into
I didn't mean to go off on...
the DC extended universe and Zack Snyder and Batman v Superman and all that stuff. But yes, I actually thought the extended version was better, which is what I'm kind of hoping with Justice League as well. But hey, I appreciate that's way off topic. Apart from superheroes, that's about as close as it gets. I don't know. I'm worried now. Am I going to get censored because of that? I don't know. I put it on screen before I read it.
Well, the podcast.
I'm learning as I go. So there you go. Cool. Well, if there's no more predictions, we should assemble as a team, and the part of the show where we actually talk about our thoughts, what we liked, what we didn't like, any nitpicks and things of that nature. And please, guys, continue in the chat as well, and let us know your thoughts. And even as you can see, regardless, I put them up.
Even the haters, go for it.
So yeah. So what did you think, guys?
I don't know. I mean, I have to say that I think we've already mentioned, Barbara mentioned one of my main nitpick of the episode was, I think Pete said this as well, that it wasn't Aaron Taylor Johnson when we saw the dead Pietro. That kind of bugged me, because I kind of looked at it and went, well, where are you going with this? I don't get it. Like, it's either him or it isn't. And it almost made me, I loved the episode, but that part of it, that when that happened, I almost just felt like, oh, well, just do what you want then, TV show. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me being a fan watching it. Just do what you damn well want. And I threw my toys out of the pram.
Wow. Pete, Barbara?
Well, I think I already said how much I really like this episode, so I don't want to repeat myself. But yeah, I think this episode is a building block episode, and I was along for the ride.
Fair enough. Barbara, overall?
I think overall the episode was good. Like I was leaning forward to see, better, like when Vision was trying to get through the barrier and he couldn't. Like there was a lot of tension in those moments. But something like isn't really sitting well with me yet, and I think I'm probably just getting anxious because we have 3 more episodes and we don't really know what's going on,
Yeah,
true.
Well, we don't even know for sure if it's going to end at the end of the season or whether it's going to
right.
I kind of doubt it.
Whether it's going to go on to a second season or what. But I have to admit, I mean, there's things I loved and things that I was a little bit cooler on with it this time. I really loved, as you've already mentioned, Barbara, the in the references. I like the fact that we got the original superhero costumes that from the classic comic books in this for the characters in a way that didn't make it hokey and ridiculous. Having it as a Halloween, a sort of late 90s, early 2000s cheap Halloween costume thing sort of made total sense. Yet you were able to get them all looking sort of spot on to the to the character versions in those 60s comic books or whatever. And I really like that. I like it when they try and find a way to bring the sort of source material into it without it being ridiculous, and I felt that worked. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think it's another like tongue-in-cheek meta thing, right, that they did, and so it works for the episode itself, but also in lots of levels, right, to the comic book fans, to I don't know, like a whole bunch of different people, right, or different groups.
Yeah, and I was kind of in the same league as Pete, in so much as I didn't realize, Barbara. So I'm really pleased you explained that the costumes that the kids were wearing was kind of like their future comic book characters, because I did kind of get the Doctor Strange vibe, with the sort of blue costume with a red cape, which let's be honest, that applies to quite a few superheroes, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But that was good for me. The bit this week that didn't work so well was the stuff outside of the hex for me. Normally it's actually the other way around. I normally kind of prefer the stuff outside of the sitcom. That's in the MCU real world, in inverted commas. But just the bit this, the character of the sword guy, what's his name? Is it Harrison? Hayward. Thank you. Sorry, I'd totally blanked on his name. I know he's been kind of behaving in ways that sort of upsets Jimmy and Darcy and Monica, but even more so in this episode, and I got kind of the whole we've got to hide and hack into the computer system and all that. I kind of rolled my eyes a little at that. I don't know what you guys thought.
I can't stand Hayward, and the fact that he tried pulling like, you don't know what the last 5 years have been like. Well, that's totally disrespectful of Monica's. How would you feel if you woke up and your mother was dead? You thought she was coming out of a surgery. Like it's hard for everybody, and people should be working together. They're doing a really good job of making him a bad guy that's easy to dislike. I don't know what else to say about him. But I think, of course, there have to be the people who are going against the grain, because it's like big government always gets portrayed as like headstrong. They're about the weapons and the like, not taking the time to trust or understand anybody who's different. So if you don't have the foils of like Darcy and Wu and Rambo, like, then what? You just get into a big blow up confrontation between Wanda and Hayward, and like that's not as interesting of a story, and it's got less potential in terms of storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, and I'm possibly reading into this a little bit too much, but in Captain America: Civil War, when they had General Ross, and they were talking about the Sokovia Accords and whatever, and you obviously had the sort of two different sides to the argument, and I just sort of felt they kind of dealt with it a bit better in that instance, whereas there is obviously I could kind of see where Hayward was coming from, but he obviously, the way they scripted it and the way they got him to perform it was kind of in a really standoffy, nasty way, rather than putting that argument across, where you could sort of see both sides. And obviously, like film is, it's all done intentionally, but I just felt it felt a little heavy handed to me in this instance, but maybe that's just me.
Mm.
I don't know. I didn't feel that way at all. I think actually, I don't want to be contrarian, but I would feel the exact opposite. I think that the Sokovia Accords, who's that Bill Hurt's character in it?
Yes.
William Hurt. I feel like he's very one-dimensional, but just by having Hayward say, like, you don't know what it was like for people who didn't blip, and like how hard we had to work together, that worked for me way more.
More
Okay.
than what?
Yeah.
More than the William Hurt stuff.
character.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha.
No, that's fine. And hey, Pete, never apologize for disagreeing with me, because that's what makes this hopefully interesting to the listeners. So no.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna go,
we've got different opinions.
And I'm going to differ with Daniel, who says he feels like this is a one and done season. I feel like this is really a springboard season. I think that my hope is that at the end of this season, we've got Wanda out of this WandaVision Westview town, but then they're springing it into more stories, and like Barbara said, sort of the next iteration of Avengers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it does feel like they're setting up for that, and of course, I know that Wanda is going to be in the Doctor Strange film as well, isn't she? She's definitely credited as being in that, so it might set things up for that also. I'm guessing, but that's cool. Any other bits and pieces that you want to? Oh, hold on a second. Garbage has just put. He's agreeing with. He's saying to Daniel Leach that he feels like it's going to lead into another spin-off show, which is exactly what you've just said, Pete. So in agreement there.
So where in this world that the show inhabits, where are the rest of the Avengers?
Well, that's a really good question, because this apparently
is there
takes
no
place...
one that could try and stop her, or do you know what I mean?
Well,
like, is that a prediction, or is they?
But here's the thing, right? Tony Stark's dead. Tony Stark's dead. Captain America is dead-ish,
Dead.
or he's passed the mantle over to.
He's with Haley Atwell,
Don't
so
say
he's
that.
doing all right.
He's with Haley Atwell in 1970, right? He's doing fine. What's the Bonero guy? Jeez, that's a terrible thing. I can't remember his name.
The what guy?
Which guy?
Who's the bow and arrow guy? Bow and arrow shooting.
Hawkeye.
Archer.
Hawkeye.
Barbara's like, Hawkeye. What the?
Clint Barton. Hawkeye. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Clint Barton is off with his family, like suffering his mental breakdown, right? The Black Widow is dead.
Thor's better.
So really, like at this point, Thor. I don't know, but at this point,
Doctor
the
Strange.
Avengers has not been reassembled.
Yeah, actually, Thor has gone off with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Thor's gone off with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, the Asgardians of the Galaxy, as he called them.
So
where he's
basically,
going to lose a load of weight.
So basically, Wanda had no friends in the Avengers, is what we're saying, and they're all just like, "I'm just off. I don't care what Wanda's doing."
Well, maybe that's why she's upset with Cara Danvers or whatever, because Captain Marvel. That is her name, isn't it? Is
Carol Danvers.
Carol Danvers. Sorry, I'm getting I'm getting my Danvers mixed up, because of course Supergirl is Cara Danvers, which is always confusing to me. But there you go. So no, yes, they had that sort of awkward moment where Captain Marvel was mentioned, and it was a little awkward, wasn't it?
Well, they hinted at. I don't want to talk about things that I've read online, but in terms of her mother's character, Monica's mother's character, there might be something involving her and Captain Marvel. So
That's Maria Rambo. Yeah?
Maria Rambo and
Photon.
Captain Marvel. So there might be something there that hints at why she's not so happy with her.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's read anything about that or not.
I try and avoid most of it, ironically, as we're doing a show about this. But I try until I've actually seen the episodes, and then I kind of want to know everything. But beforehand, I just try and avoid it.
I'll say offline.
I've not read much about that. But Barbara, have you got thoughts that sort of feed into the comics?
Yeah, I am starting to shift my leanings about who the villain is going to turn out to be, because we, like in the comics, the twins were pieces of a demon named Mephisto, who, like, you know, some combination of his powers and Wanda's to create the twins just so he could absorb them again and become more powerful. It was like this whole twisted drama. Which I did say early on, that I don't think Marvel's gonna go with that entire storyline, because it's just a little too much for, I think, like mainstream entertainment. But I was sort of holding out, thinking like maybe it was gonna still be Mephisto, and then it's like a whole nother realm that can be from the comics that could be brought into the MCU of like demons, and not like in a religious sense at all, but I am starting to move away from Mephisto being the villain, and I'm thinking more and more it's potentially going to be a different demon called Nightmare, who plagues Doctor Strange very often in the comics. Ghost Rider, which even the comics were terrible, so I really hope he doesn't show up in the MCU.
Wasn't he in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Have I got that right? Was Ghost Rider? You see, I didn't follow Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after like the second season, but I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe Ghost Rider did come into one of the latter seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But then again, that's not officially canon now anyway, is it? So it's loose canon. Right.
Loose cannon.
Oh my goodness.
Well said.
Bit like me on this show.
Ryan, you'd be happy to know also this Nightmare character has run-ins with Squirrel Girl in the comics.
You see,
that is real, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a total real thing.
I just remembered, you know what, years ago, well, not years and years, but a few years ago, there was a few rumors about Anna Kendrick playing Squirrel Girl, and I love Anna Kendrick, so I thought that might be fun. But again, it's that kind of character, kind of like Barbara said, I don't think it's a character that mainstream audiences would really get behind somehow.
Hey, we've got Rocket Raccoon, right? And if you told me about that before Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, I'd have been like, you have got to be kidding. And you know, watching Endgame, I was massively invested. So if it's done well, which they are doing this stuff well, it works. So does anybody think that Hayward is secretly like you know, some sort of super villain or whatever behind that, or is he just a government official who's a bit of a idiot? What do we think?
I think he's too cowardly to be a super powered person.
Okay. Pete, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that he's a little bit too weak of a character, right? And the way they played him. But it would be, I think, good storytelling if they introduced that as a human villain in, you know, to provide a foil in future things.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, I've outed Daniel in the chat, who's put the Ghost Rider Nicolas Cage movies are a guilty pleasure for me. Well, there you go. You know, it's
Nicolas Cage is the ultimate guilty pleasure, is he not?
I guess
Yeah.
so.
I can't. I almost justify the entire cost of Disney Plus by how often I watch the National Treasure movies.
Yes,
Sure.
yes,
That
Pete.
is true.
Yes,
So,
yes,
It's
Pete.
true.
They
I
are
kind of
fun.
like them.
They're fun.
Yeah, it's like anyway. All right, guys. Well, if there's not anything else you want to add, again, I am conscious that we are over. We're approaching the hour and 10-minute mark on this, which obviously these episodes are pretty short, and our podcasts are quite long. So, any sort of closing thoughts before we go into announcements?
One last thing. I don't know if our followers saw on social. We posted a bingo card for this episode, and it turned out there was not an actual bingo on that card, but it's not really my fault. But I just wonder if people thought that was fun, if I should do something similar again, maybe make a couple different cards for like the next episode, or we could try some different games.
Well, there you go. We're putting that out there. I mean, even if you're not watching this live and you're catching us afterwards, please put that down in the comments. Before we sort of go into wrapping up, we do want to announce that we're delighted. We've got a special guest for next week's episode joining us. We have Ryan Airy from Screen Crush joining. Thanks to Barbara, I might point out, credit where it's due.
It's just luck.
So I am looking forward to having Ryan on the show. I don't know whether you've seen any of the Screen Crush videos and some of the essays that they do online, but he certainly knows his stuff, and I think it'll be really interesting to have him on the show and have a chat with him. As I previously mentioned, please check out, I've put a link down below to my unboxing of the Blade 4K Blu-ray Steelbook edition. Have a look at that, and if that's something you fancy, then please join us for the rest of the season, where we'll be giving opportunities to win a copy of that, and I will be doing a proper review on it as well at some point. But in the meantime, guys, if anybody wants to get hold of you, where can they find you? Barbara.
I'm on Twitter at B McMealy, or also on the LSWOT cast social media profiles.
Pete. He's laughing.
You like the LSWOT?
I love LSWOT.
LSWOT cast? Yeah.
I know everything sounds better if it's vaguely French, right? So we're not LSWOT, we're LSWOT.
LSWOT.
I like it. I like it.
LSWOT. Okay.
So come on.
I think
Pete.
actually credit for that goes to our teenage daughter.
Oh, well done.
Get her on next week.
I didn't know
Yes.
that. Yeah. All right. You can find me on Twitter at Too Many E's. TOOMANYEES. Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Explains so much. Yes. Ryan.
I just want to be known as on the LSWOT team. You can find me on Instagram, Ryan Holloway Artist, and you can visit my website, ryanholloway.net.
Absolutely. And you can find, obviously, you're already on Home Media Minefield. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this. So please check out more videos and unboxings and whatever there. If you want to get in touch with us directly at the podcast, you can reach us at LSWOTcast@gmail.com. I'm really liking this LSWOT now.
There we go.
As it's spelled on the screen, guys. So yeah, please write in. We will read any communications that we get back on the air for sure. I do want to plug one other thing, as today is Valentine's Day, 14th of February. There is a film that's been released on Amazon Prime by Simon Aitken called Modern Love, and I'm plugging it because Simon's a friend and a previous co-host of podcasts with me, but also I do have a part in this film as well. So if you want to see if I can act, check that out. Also, if you want to see more of my work in terms of a filmmaker, if you go to British Isles, that's EYLES, as in my last name, like what I did there, British Isles on YouTube, then you can find some short films that I've made there. So thank you.
I think that's how all actors should promote their films. If you want to see if I can act, go and watch it.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you want to see, if you want to see if I can direct, go and watch it.
Well, as you can see by tonight's episode, unless I've got a script, I'm absolutely all over the place. So, but that just leaves me to thank you guys that have been involved in the chat. We really appreciate all comments. Although please try not to use profanity if you've got to. But we really appreciate that. We really appreciate you viewing. Please do spread the word. Also, if you want to find us, we're available on all good podcasting apps. Just look for LSWOT Cast on all good podcasting apps, and you can find us there. And that just leaves me to thank my co-hosts, and we will see you next time on
Let's see what's
out
out
there live. We'll get it right by the end of the series.
I think I hesitated more because I was like, are we going to say LSWOT?
Yeah. Garbage has said, we should say that. Garbage has said, Home Media Minefield enjoyed the stream. Thank you so much. Garbage. We appreciate it. Goodbye, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, God. Right.